It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Hi, and welcome everybody. We're going to be taking a look at a project I've been working on, Second Amendment Sister States. And chatted about this before. I've talked about it a while. Give me some feedback. Let me know if my audio is working as people join in. I suppose while we're waiting for people to join in here, we'll just do a quick commercial for the Gizzard.
This is Earl Benson, reporting from downtown Topeka, where Gizzard Gary is rampaging through the city. Authorities have asked the public to stay indoors. They believe he will tire soon and need a nap. Gizzard Gary can normally be seen on Foul Territory, Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central. Wednesday, 8 p.m. for the channel members chat. Stay safe and give him the bird. Earl Benson signing off.
And we'll throw a commercial up here as well.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
I know some people put the countdown timers in front because you don't get people rolling in until the alerts go out and people start to see that you're live, and then they click on it. So give me some feedback on the audio. I'll just go over here and open it, I guess. And we'll get started here. Puppy wants to come up. He heard the commercial, but there's nowhere for Puppy to live up here, so he can't come up here today. No co-host. And we'll find out if the audio is working here in a minute. All right, Puppy, you can come up here, but there's nowhere to find out if the audio is working here in a minute. Okay. All right, so now we don't have to watch that. And we do have a Puppy co-host. He's just not going to be on the video because, again, there's nowhere for him to live. We've got a bunch of stuff in his way. So he's pretty hot anyway. He's not going to want to stay up here very long. All right, just doing a quick check of some stuff here as we get going. Crab Channel's giving us the thumbs up. Welcome. All right, so I've thought about it for a while, and I've had some frustrations over the years because we seem to be, in some respects, stuck in a rut or caught in a loop, or at least we don't see more than the standard or the more than the established or existing methods of changing things. So I don't think we have to stay inside of any kind of box or we have to follow any kind of path. Lawsuits are great, but they're not our only option, right? That being said, what do we have besides lawsuits anyway? And one of the things I've always thought about was the sister cities thing that happens. And I don't know where that even came from. Hopefully it's not communist. But wherever sister cities came from, I've known about them for some reason for a long time because maybe they get brought up occasionally. Maybe I walked past a little sign or something that said something about it. So I've never been beat over my head. I've never been, well, actually I must have been to sister cities, but I've never intentionally gone to a sister city or anything like that. But if you know what I'm talking about, feel free to leave a comment so that I'm not wasting my time talking about something if we already know what we're talking about here. But this concept of sister cities exists, and that happens across international borders. It happens in the United States. It happens, different kinds of circumstances. So why can't it happen with Second Amendment stuff? We have a lot of resources and we have a lot of potential. Why don't we organize that a little bit and make as much use of it as we can? So here's what it says. I've been having this in my head for a while. I decided to spend some time developing it. So I asked the computer robots this morning what they would do about it. This is the image. It took me longer to make this image than it took the computer robots. I actually made a video of what the computer robots did. And what I asked them was, create a list of U.S. states that would assist each other with Second Amendment issues, preventing anti-gun laws, creating awareness, providing training and assistance to each other, tag each state with bad gun laws that restrict individual freedom, and match each of these affected states with 4 or more free states that would best complement each other. Be thorough and think outside the box for these associations. List each affected state and the associated 2A sister states as bullet points with reasons why and how they can assist. And as I quoted here, the result was okay, but what it did is it used the states more than once. Like Montana was connected with more than one state. So I refined the challenge with thank you now, please, because I thank my robots because I pay for my robot now. Thank you. Very good. Now, please do this again without duplicating any states. And so all 50 states are used. It didn't quite obey my orders, but here's how long it took. Here's an exact readout of what it came up with and how long it took to answer that. I don't know if I still am able to talk while it's doing this or not, but we're seeing the actual time it took for the computer robot brain to answer, to do what I told it to do right there. So I don't know why a Second Amendment organization at the national level, it brings in tens of millions of dollars, couldn't have done this. Took approximately 1 minute and 1 second to come up with the answers that we're about to talk about right now. So I don't know if there's a timestamp on here anywhere, but I did this about an hour ago. I did this pretty much an hour ago. And then I took that information and I posted it over on Substack, which you've got a link to, and we will be looking at on the screen here. There's a link in the description of the video or the description of the podcast, wherever it is you happen to be listening to this. And then, so you can go check it out over there. So essentially, we're going to be talking about the results. This is the video that we're doing right now. This will become a podcast. And this is all provided by our patrons, the people that financially support, the capitalists that financially support what we're doing here. I wish I was wealthy enough to do this stuff gratis, but I'm a regular person and I'm battling with killing bills from past Second Amendment efforts. So as I kill those bills, the Patreons make it possible for me to spend hours each week working on projects like this that, I don't know, national level organizations that make millions of dollars a year ain't paying me to do, and they're not doing it. So I'm going to start doing some of this stuff thanks to the Patreons. So if you want to be part of that capitalist venture, if you value this at all, you're willing to put a box of ammo or a cup of coffee, whatever you look at it, then head over to Patreon, jump over to YouTube membership, throw a super chat in here. You know how capitalism works. Our resource is our finances. And when you shift that around to what you value, we're able to fight harder. Anyway, we'll keep moving. So the robots came up with California. And in this map, if everyone wants to follow along, California is in yellow. And then you'll see that the associated states are color coordinated to it. Let's see. So we came up with California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Massachusetts, Maryland, Connecticut, Hawaii, okay, Rhode Island. I think I could have probably, if I had more time, maybe even put Washington in here instead of Rhode Island. But let me know. Am I forgetting Rhode Island because nobody lives there? We never hear about it except for on the podcast from Sisters in Arms. Aside from Sisters in Arms, nobody talks about Rhode Island. So is that just because of their population, or is it really because there are not that many gun owners there, or the gun laws aren't that bad? I really don't even know that much about Rhode Island. Then we got D.C. A lot of people will say it's not a state. All right, so I'm not saying this list is 100% legit, but it's, maybe a little bit debatable, but nobody's going to complain about 90% of this list. So if you go back to the map, I essentially attempted to put the states in here that were affected. California, and then whatever, New York, Massachusetts, all these states are tiny back over here. So it always gets difficult to identify them, because they're all just smushed together. They're all smaller than Illinois put together. Like you could cram all the anti-gun states into Illinois and then cram that into California. But you cram a lot of stuff into California. But then there's only so many colors that I have available to me. So it didn't become that great of an effort here. So I might refine this map. I might not. I was just open to, for me, I like to visually associate these things instead of just having these lists that we're about to go through here with words. I wanted to see what it looked like. I kind of expected some of the states to be adjoining, but it's not always the case. So let's chat about that. This is an interactive effort here. It's not a lecture. I just go to the computer robot, asked it some stuff. We're now going to evaluate that. Feel free to be part of that. Comment. There's people watching on X, and you're able to comment. You are allowed to be part of a thing that you see on X. You don't have to just watch it. Just letting you know. Thanks to the folks on YouTube that participate. Krabby Turtle's already out there saying, hey, Kingpin was here earlier. Both of them folks are from the East Coast. All right, so let's dig in. We got California as the first one, and it suggested the sister states be Montana, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Utah. So reasons why: Montana has a strong gun culture and minimal restrictions, provides robust legal support and training resources. Yeah, okay, that's vague, but whatever. South Dakota offers strong community support for gun rights advocacy and legislative guidance. All right, whatever. Wyoming, known for its staunch support of individual freedoms and can assist with advocacy and awareness. I don't know. It's kind of blah answers. Utah, proximity, what? And a supportive legal environment for gun rights. All right, Utah is not next to California, so whatever. I will give Montana and Wyoming and potentially Utah as being connected with California because of the exodus from California into those states and the influence of those states in these states. I could see them having ties that way. South Dakota must have some, but South Dakota has a pile of money from fracking. So not only do they have community support, but I feel like they have a lot of money and they need to do something with it. So I also think Montana has the Montana laws that are essentially separating Montana from national firearms laws, the Suppressor Act and stuff like that, which is good. And Wyoming has, again, a lot of California people there. So I do think that there's a lot of potential influence from these states specifically into California. Now, I wonder if it put California as the most affected state. And did it give it heavy hitters? What about population? Is that another one? Like Wyoming probably is growing in population. Montana has some people, I think. South Dakota, I don't know. And Utah, probably not that many. But I think that's an interesting set. Feel free to comment on that if you want. I also took some of these and turned them into weird AI images. And there you go. So then we got New York. According to this, I'm assuming the second most infringed upon state. I don't know if that's the case or not. Massachusetts is getting a pretty good whooping right now. New York is constantly being whooped, though. So let's see. 2A sister states include North Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama. So nothing that touches it. And if you go back up to this map, those states all kind of touch each other. So New York is purple, and it's these purple states. California was California, then Utah, Wyoming, South Dakota, and Montana. Those states all kind of touch each other, and like I said, there's a lot of exodus there. I mean, there's a heck of a lot of California and Texas and Arizona and other states, but California lost a lot of people. But over here, we're talking New York and then essentially the Southeast, a good chunk of the Southeast. And I'm wondering if there's any more reason to that, or if there's some suggestion there that I'm missing. But it's going to essentially say the same thing, so I don't need to read all these. It says North Carolina provides a strong 2A community and legal infrastructure, provides logistical support and advocacy. That's just styrofoam words. Those don't mean shit. These are just words that fill the space, which is all robots can do. But every once in a while, the robots will fill the space with something that's interesting, like a little nugget. So I don't see anything here, but I guess I should shut up because it says Georgia offers a robust gun rights network, which is true, and grassroots movements, which is true. So that's one of the things I was going to say. So first off, we've got these states are not insignificant. They own a lot of stuff. Like that's a lot of money in those states. And I think a history of interaction with New York. just because they're all some of the original colonies and shit. So they probably have some networks that are established networks that have been around generations and stuff like that. But I think I was also going to say there's a lot of gun culture in Georgia for sure, Alabama and North Carolina and Mississippi, I'd say to some extent. But Georgia, there's a lot of industry in Georgia. And I think that is something else as far as like vacationing and populations. I'm not sure how that all works with New York, but I found that one interesting. So I kind of figured New York would team up with Florida for some reason, but like I say, these can be switched around. This is just the computer brain's first attempt at it, and it may not even be right. Next up is New Jersey, which I don't know if anybody's going to dispute New Jersey being number 3. I think something like Connecticut or one of these other states like Rhode Island could probably contend for number 3. Could Illinois contend for number 3 above New Jersey? Illinois used to have it a lot worse, and they have like a lot of black eyes, but New Jersey just lives with a lot of infringements. So I'm going to give New Jersey an uncontested number 3. Their sister states are Arkansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Kansas. So if we go back up and look at that map for the folks that are like myself, New Jersey is blue, and it has Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska. So a little L shape of the Midwest helping New Jersey. Now, I happen to know people in pretty much all those states. I think I know people in every state, but I know people in all those states, and I think it would be a pretty good match. That's a lot of the breadbasket. Is that what they call that part of the country? That's a lot of people who probably never been to New Jersey, and a lot of people from New Jersey never been to those states. So it's not like New Jersey helping out New York or something. So I think that one could be interesting. But then we've got a lot of ammunition coming from these states. I mean, this is literally the states that have, is that all, except for like Illinois, this is like all the ammunition, right? So that's a lot of infrastructure there. Arkansas is a big gun state. Like there's a lot of gun stuff there. And then there's a lot of history in these cities, in these states, I guess. Krabby is saying Florida will be a good sister state for New York with so many moving from New York. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It was like just the historic retirement thing is there. Like Wisconsin and Arizona is a big one. Like pretty much everybody from Wisconsin retires to Arizona. All right, next we're going to get to Illinois. I guess you could say Illinois, I don't know. It depends on where you want to put Illinois. Like I say, they do have they do have concealed carry, and they do have an FOID. So it's like they've got some good stuff, but they've also got some heinous shit. But they don't have the same heinous shit as some of the other states. It's like they only have about half the heinous shit. But anyway, so Illinois, their sister states are Louisiana, South Carolina, Iowa, and Colorado. Thought this one was interesting. We'll go back up to the map. Illinois is in dark green, so I gave it these like kind of this color green because there's 2 greens in here. So Iowa, Colorado, Louisiana, and South Carolina. I think it's interesting that that's like sort of a 4 direction type of situation, and so they've got an adjoining state. That's the first time we're seeing one with an adjoining state. Iowa, for the most part, if it exists, and it's not just some sort of fake news situation, then, or maybe one of them holograms, then they pretty much resist the bullshit from both Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Illinois. There's some leanings towards lameness in some of these other states, but they resist it pretty well. And Iowa does a good job of like buffering that. Missouri can be a weird one. This thing. Dang this thing. Where am I going to put it that it doesn't always fall over every time I move my foot? I'm putting it over here for now. So I thought that was an interesting choice for Illinois. Now let's go back. I'll look at these things. I don't like reading them all that much because they're pretty much saying the same stuff. Louisiana, strong pro-gun laws and community, provides a supportive environment, strong 2A community, really, in Iowa, strong 2A community, and resources for legal support. And then Colorado offers a mix of urban and rural perspective on gun rights, aiding in awareness and advocacy. And that's a kind of a weird one because I think Colorado could be considered one that's in trouble, right? That needs help. In fact, I think somebody might want to put Colorado in here in place of Rhode Island potentially. But can a sister state be another state that's in need? I think that's a thing. All right, I get the cups. I think that could be a thing. Krabby is asking, is Vermont a strong 2A state? Well, interestingly enough, Vermont was paired up with Washington, D.C. We'll get to that. I believe Vermont was able to remain a strong state, period. And they just didn't think about guns for the longest time. But lately, they've gotten their asses handed to them. So, and they haven't resisted. They've just been like, oh yeah, no problem. Let's be anti-gun, as far as I can tell. So the problem, I think, with Vermont is who the hell even knows who's in Vermont? Is that where Ben & Jerry's is from? So there must be some cows up there and maybe, I'm assuming, maple syrup. But I don't know anybody from Vermont, I don't think. No, I think we did. Did we know somebody from Vermont? We might have had one person from Gun Channels in Vermont, but I don't think I've ever known anybody else from Vermont. That's the problem, is that I don't even know if maybe it's Iowa. Maybe it's like Iowa. But I was also going to go up here and say that Maine is not on the table, and neither is New Hampshire. And I don't know where New Hampshire is with guns, but there must be people that live in those states because they exist. And they're not, the robot didn't pick them. So potentially we have these wild cards to add to a state. So for Illinois, I'm going to wild card add New Hampshire in there because they gave them Colorado. And I think Colorado, I think there's something to be said for a state that's suffering to sister up with another state that's suffering. They could be suffering sisters together. And then maybe it's one of those things like if I can't apply the tourniquet to myself, I can't apply it to them, and vice versa, and now they stop some bleeding. And then maybe they're able to work on their own issues. But I don't know. So let me know. Get some feedback on this. Feel free. Let's see. This is over on the Substack, by the way, and I leave my Substack open. There is a subscriber to Substack, so thank you very much. The Patreons, of course, are the support that makes Substack happen. So in other words, we don't have a paywall on Substack like some of them do. You don't have to pay us to see the stuff. We post it, hopefully to inspire some of the organizations that bring in tens of millions of dollars each year to throw somebody who makes a couple of $1,000 a month on this instead of me having to do it in a couple hours on a Tuesday morning. Because I think I should probably ask the robot over here. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Let's go do it. Am I allowed to show my robot in front of everybody? I think I can. So one of the reasons the Patreons and I pay for the robot now, and because I quit paying for it a while ago, is I'm paying for it again because as I ask it a question, it will also, am I doing this right? It will also remember what I've been talking about. So let's ask it, hold on. Let's ask it, hold on. Crap. There we go. Let's ask it. Okay. In what ways? All right, so we'll ask it how the states can help each other. Okay, well, it's going pretty quick. So we got it breaking up into legal assistance and support, advocacy and lobbying, education and training, community building and networking, resource sharing. It's pausing for a moment. Doesn't like to be looked at. Relocation assistance, political campaign support. I like these, please add more to the list. All right, so media and communication strategies, legislative strategy sharing, crisis management support, interesting. Research and data sharing, interesting. Technological and digital support, and I think that's one's reaching a little bit. Youth engagement and education. International, what does that mean? International agency. Well, I asked it to reach, so it's reaching. Then I got off course. So communication or community and cultural initiatives, legal clinics and pro bono services. Wow, think about all the nations that we're talking about here. Without getting into BLM stuff. I mean, BIA. That's a lot of potential nations that could reach across. Of course, they don't have a history of getting good results from that, so that would be a big ask. But anyway, so I think that's something that we could possibly chat about here once we get through the states. All the different ways that they can support it. It gave me some bullet points here, but these bullet points are lacking, and I think there are some specific ways that each of these states could that's weird, like, partner up, but share resources. All right, so I think we just did Illinois. Yeah, now we're going to Massachusetts, Tennessee, Missouri, New Mexico, and Minnesota. So when we think about Minnesota, I think was it Wisconsin and Minnesota? Let's see. Massachusetts had, which one's Massachusetts? Massachusetts is over here in red, so I gave it Minnesota, or I gave it Minnesota. Wait, is that right? No, Tennessee, Missouri, New Mexico, Minnesota. Yeah, okay. So Tennessee, Missouri, Minnesota, and New Mexico. Well, New Mexico is essentially anti-gun, so that's one of those. Do we give them Maine now? I don't know. Massachusetts is under attack, and Maine is right there, and I know that a lot of people from Massachusetts flee to Maine. So I'm tempted to give Maine to Massachusetts because they need extra help, even though Massachusetts is tiny relatively. But what I guess is USCCA? No, USCCA is in Wisconsin. We haven't gotten to Maryland yet, but I think they get USCCA. But there is some industry, some gun industry in Minnesota, and let's see, Missouri. What's going on in Missouri? There's some gun industry in Missouri. There's definitely sporting goods in both of these states. And then we've got Tennessee. Is Tennessee the most gun state? Some people would say that. They certainly got a lot of, they're right in the middle, so they get a lot of gun stuff going through them for sure. They're adjacent to a bunch of gun stuff. I don't know. There's a couple industries in Tennessee, so it's often will brag to be one of the big gun states, even though it's a tiny little state. The size of some states panhandles, just saying. Then we've got New Mexico, which again is anti-gun essentially, and what are they helping anybody? I don't like to talk shit about New Mexico, but they're not known for kicking the crap out of Second Amendment rights or anything. So, but they don't have a lot of people. But that could be, now that you start thinking about resources and stuff, sending people back and forth and vacationing and stuff and that kind of thing. There is a lot of potential there. These are tiny little states with lots of people and big giant states with not that many people. And if this became a thing, and like gun shops, for example, teamed up, and every once in a while there was a vacation or a trip or a destination type of thing planned, it can be interesting. All right, so I don't think there was anything interesting there, but we'll see. Known for its strong gun rights activism, advocacy, robust legal and provide supportive legal environment, strong 2A organization. Yeah, see, they're just filling space with most of these. We got a better answer when I asked it again, more generally, interestingly. Let's see. So then we've got Maryland. Some of the folks out there are listening are from Maryland. And if I can scroll down, sister states include Michigan, Kentucky, Wisconsin, and North Dakota. Interesting selection. We got a Maryland picture here. All right, so we'll go back up and take a look there. Maryland is this one, and it has Minnesota. No, it has Michigan and Wisconsin, which is a problem because those two states hate each other. Kentucky and what was the other one you got? Maryland, Michigan, Kentucky, Wisconsin, and North Dakota. There it is, North Dakota. So North Dakota, do they got a bunch of fracking money? No. So I don't know what's going on in North Dakota. They're friends with Canada. You got that going for you. Although I don't know if Maryland has that big a fight compared to like some of the other states that are getting their asses kicked. Maryland doesn't have it great, but I don't know if you've got the constant fight. But that is a good group of states to be connected with. And I think some of this, I've focused this, I guess, on the states that are having the most negative impact. But there's also an element to this, or a way to look at this, where how do these states work together without the focus on the state that's getting the most abused? Because if you just start looking at this, how could some of these states work together? Well, a lot of these states do adjoin. Like a lot of these states are next to each other. And if there was these coalition of states in this order, what kind of mixes would that come up with? I don't know. Another way to look at this, I guess, now that I just thought of that, was what organizations are involved. So now we got Maryland shall issue, I believe is what we've got there. And is there another one from Maryland? There might be a campus carrying Maryland or something. But then, again, you got USCCA and Michigan. Michigan comes with a lot of a lot of gun-related stuff all over the place. Then you got Kentucky, which, again, could probably say it's got some of them, a lot of gun stuff going on, too. It's just like in Tennessee. But hard to say. And then you've got North Dakota, which I don't know. Again, North Dakota's got the Vermont thing going. Just not enough people from North Dakota. Oh, let's see. Yeah, I guess I can close that. So we're going to go down to they keep saying supportive legal environment. So obviously there's a lot of attorneys in these states and a lot of maybe retired folks who have the ability to show up for comment periods, or people that'll show up for online for events, and maybe even rallies. How cool would it be if busloads of people came from these states to rallies in the other states? That's an interesting element of it. All right, so now we get to Connecticut. Is Connecticut less worse off than Maryland? I don't know. We have, every once in a while, I see people do lists of the best state to live in, but has there been a competition to see which is the worst states and in what order? What criteria would you use, and how do you rank them? Anyhow, Connecticut, a state that gets overlooked, but has a consistent pressure that's anti. They get Indiana, Ohio, Alaska, and Texas. I kind of feel like this is a better lineup for Massachusetts almost, because these are some heavy hitters. So we'll go back up to the link to the map there. Connecticut, tiny little state over here, hiding out underneath of Massachusetts, next to Rhode Island and New York, that green one. So they're going to get Ohio, Indiana, Texas, and Alaska, some of the largest states, like some of the most real estate out there. Should New York get those states? Like Texas and Alaska are some pretty big states. That being said, are you going to get Texans to support another state? They kind of love being Texas. So I don't know. It'd be a challenge. So you probably get like a quarter of the Texans to help out. I don't know. Tennessee is all about, right? They're a volunteer state. They'll go get it done. Texas is more like, yeah, come here and volunteer over here because we're in Texas. We like being Texas. But whatever. It would be neat to see Texas team up with Connecticut, because I'm pretty sure if you had Alaska, Texas, Indiana, and Ohio all helping Connecticut out, Connecticut would be like the most 2A state in the freaking country. Think about how many financial resources Texas could lean on any state with if they felt like it, if they actually felt like it. I mean, they always brag about how they could be their own country. So I'm just saying, why don't they lean on the kinds of states that suck and do something about it? But they don't. So I think that's a neat one. But I think there is something like, again, if somebody wanted to actually go live and have a debate about some of this stuff, I think that one, I could see some debate on that one. Those are some heavy hitters for Connecticut. As much as I like Connecticut, because Brooke Cheney's there and other people we know are there. Texas is a big player in this game. That being said, I'm still going to say, prove it, Texas. You're a lot of potential on the table. Let's see you do something about it. Does Alaska do more than Texas? Alaska's done more than Texas. I can tell you that much. Like, which one's got more money? Which one's got big? Which one's bigger? I don't know. It'd be neat to see Alaska and Texas fight once in a while, just so that one, they quit leaving the rest of us alone, and two, to knock them both down a couple of pegs. But they'd probably get stronger. They'd probably learn something fighting each other. So, what would you pay to see Alaska and Texas fight each other once in a while? I think every year, at least every other year, maybe, because Texas only likes to do stuff every other year. Every other year, Alaska and Texas fight each other. Maybe every 3 years. So it's some sort of weird alternating thing that has nothing to do with the Olympics and also messes with Texas a little bit because they only like to do stuff every other year. They'd have to keep track of a 3-year rolling thing. That might keep them off guard. Alaska might kick the crap out of Texas year after year because of that. And that might be a tangent. We'll let that one go to another topic. Nobody's saying anything. That's what happens. So if you're listening to this and go as a podcast and going, what the hell? It's because most of the people on X don't comment. And that's a lot of the people that are watching are on the X. But aside for Krabby Turtle, nobody's really commenting today. So it sounds like nobody likes to help each other, one, and nobody wants to help another state out that's having trouble. Just like to mock them. If we did this list as which states should laugh at which states so that we can get the best memes and sarcastic gotchas on the internet, boom, a whole bunch of people would show up. Let's see. Connecticut. Next we get Hawaii. So this is the one that they gave us. They gave Hawaii, Florida, Nevada, Idaho, and Arizona. So at first I'm like, all right, cool, because maybe I get a trip to Hawaii out of this. But I don't really care about going to Hawaii, so that's not that big a draw for me. And I mean, I would take a boat to Hawaii, but it turns out if you're on a boat to Hawaii and somebody gets stuck in the ocean, they'll just go look for that person, and your vacation can go to nowhere because they're going to look for a person in the ocean, which I get it. But if you're paying to go to Hawaii and you end up just circling around the ocean looking for somebody, seems like a risk I'm not willing to take. So plus I don't want to be that guy floating in the ocean either. So I fall off of stuff all the time, so I don't need to be falling off of no boat. Anyway, Hawaii got teamed up with Florida. I can almost understand that. Nevada? Nah. Idaho? Come on. And then Arizona. I can almost understand it, but only because of our heat, because we're all used to being hot. Maybe because of the vacation destinations, but then where the hell did Idaho come from? So I kind of get this one, but again, if somebody wanted to dispute these and split some of these up, I don't know if these are the best like if this is the best mix or the best adjustment. It's the best mix, I guess, for each of these states, because Hawaii has got a big ask. So I could almost see giving Hawaii some of the states that can't do much, offer much help, because I don't know what you're going to do for Hawaii. You almost need each state in each island in Hawaii to have a whole state or two helping it, just because of the difficulties of helping Hawaii. Welcome's out there. Welcome. So, but anyway, I thought that one was neat. And if we go back to the map and look, we're all kind of touching each other. So Hawaii would get Arizona, Nevada, Idaho, and Florida. So 3 of us, like they literally get the, what's that called? The Appalachian now. It's the, dang, I can't think of the name. There's a name for the trail that goes from Mexico to Canada, but you can hike from Mexico to Canada. And essentially, Hawaii would get that whole trail. And then they'd also get Florida as a bonus. So I feel like Hawaii really got a lot out of this. And it's Hawaii. You know what I mean? Like everybody would want to be hooked up with Hawaii. I feel like maybe Hawaii should be all northern states, but whatever. And then they give us Rhode Island. So this one I could definitely see being in dispute because I just, like I said before, I just don't know what's happening in Rhode Island, except for Sisters in Arms. I never hear about Rhode Island. But they gave Rhode Island Delaware, which I forgot about. Everybody forgets about Delaware. West Virginia, all right. Oregon, what? And Washington. So I guess the robots figured, well, Washington and Oregon are essentially on the brink of being anti-gun. They're right in the middle of having the fights right now. Delaware, nobody remembers, and people forget about Rhode Island, so I guess that mixes. And then West Virginia. So, I mean, West Virginia would be doing all the work here as far as I can tell. And there's not that many people in West Virginia, so this would be a tough one. So Washington and Oregon mixing up with Delaware, West Virginia, and Rhode Island. Maybe it would be the underdog team that no one thinks would do very good, but maybe Rhode Island would be like that spice that's needed for Oregon and Washington to figure out how to work together. And then let's go back up to the map because it's definitely a dispersed group here. I put them in pink because why not? So Oregon, Washington, in that order, West Virginia, and then Rhode Island, which you can barely tell over here is also pink. So again, it's like anybody can help Rhode Island, I suppose, because they're so tiny. There's like 17 people in Rhode Island. But I think there's also that dynamic of how these states might just work together. Pretty much West Virginia is sitting there doing all the work here, being free, and then, I don't know, maybe it would act like some sort of bouncing point for those other states. I don't know. There's just not going to be a lot of people going to Rhode Island. But I don't know. I don't know if this is a good thought project or a seed for some kind of an idea or not. The last one is Washington, D.C., which isn't even a state. We all know that's fake. But they put it in here. And the way they divided it up, I could make Washington, D.C. not exist, and then we could give these states to other states. So we got that potential. Because again, Washington, D.C. is fake. It is not a state. That being said, they have the best license plate, even though they're not a state. It says no taxation without representation. And that's their license plate. And they are essentially pissed because they are a state. They get treated like a state, except they don't get any rights or responsibilities of a state. A bunch of people want to use them to get them to do senators and that kind of stuff. So a lot of people are never going to let them be a state because it would give them 2 more senators. And what political party do you think that DC would be? So DC is kind of stuck there with no representation. But what's the robot? Why is Mello crying? Why are you crying? She's having a bad dream about Washington, D.C. She's never been to Washington, D.C., has she? Did she go to Washington, D.C.? She did go to Washington, D.C., but she didn't get to go to the rally because I was scared to bring her downtown. But she was in Washington, D.C., so she's crying about being in Washington, D.C. Probably because she had to stay in the van the whole day. Anyway, so Washington, D.C. was given Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Vermont. So an interesting mix. Like say, they didn't pick New Hampshire. And, well, here's the thing. They gave Maryland, Washington, D.C. I'm assuming it's because they touch each other. Virginia and Maryland are all like wrapping all around D.C. in a weird way. But Maryland is also one of the states that it is considered needing help. So it kind of double teamed Maryland, and Maryland might not like that. They might not be interested in that. So my tendency is to not just do exactly what the robots say, but instead I would probably pick Washington, D.C. out of here, quit acting like it's a state, and then give Virginia, ignore Maryland because they already are in the list, but give Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Vermont to some other states that could use the strong cultural support for individual freedoms and gun rights. But Pennsylvania, obviously, massive state for potential. Vermont, is Vermont a good state, as Gabby said? I don't know. But Virginia, massive state, massive state, an engine for this kind of stuff. But I could almost see taking like Rhode Island off the list, taking Washington, D.C. off the list, and then just putting Washington on the list. Not D.C., but the regular state of Washington, leaving Pennsylvania and Virginia on here, and now having Washington state connected to Pennsylvania and Virginia to give it access, and maybe put DC in there. But so anyway, I could potentially see that happening, so that you get some like across the country type of situation happening. All right, well, this was one that I decided to try out, but it looks like it flopped. We didn't get any feedback at all, and I thought it worked out pretty neat. I thought the robot did a good job. I was able to put this together in about an hour and a half or something, and then spend 45 minutes chatting it up. If we had a discussion or we had a panel or something, they might be able to chime in on this. Anybody's welcome to take these seeds and run with them. How awesome would it be if people actually had conversations on the regular about Second Amendment issues that were outside the box and thinking about ways that we could move forward instead of just observing or doing the same old shit that we've done a million times. Maybe that would spur some of those organizations that make tens of millions of dollars of contributions every year to do projects like this instead of $35 lawsuits. But whatever. So we'll end this one and say thanks for not participating, or not thanks for not participating. It would have been funner if people participated in it. We'll throw a quick commercial up here for Gizzard, who does a show on Fridays.
This is Earl Benson reporting from downtown Topeka, where Gizzard Gary is rampaging through the city. Authorities have asked the public to stay indoors. They believe he will tire soon and need a nap. Gizzard Gary can normally be seen on Foul Territory Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central. Wednesday, 8 p.m. for the channel members chat. Stay safe and give him the bird. Earl Benson signing off.
All right, well, so maybe you're like, hey, I'm a capitalist and I'm worried that he'll quit putting effort into this since he could have spent this hour and 2 hours and a half making money instead of farting around with all this 2A stuff. So I want to make sure that there's some incentive to continue doing this. I'm going to go grab some from that store that he talks about all the time. Here's a link to that store.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
And since since Patriot gave us a super chat last week, we'll throw a Ninja Strike out there at the end.
Shit. Ninja? Ninja! Ninja!
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.